We are still in chapter 1 of Isaiah, and we're going to start with verse 21. You finished a piece of it.
I turned my Bible off.
Isaiah what?
Isaiah 1:22 is where we're starting.
Hi, Claire.
At the beginning.
Everyone's asking about.
When will you be here?
Wednesday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, if all goes as planned.
Okay.
Claire, it's Stuart. I thought you were gonna be here today. I was all set to meet you in person.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's just been absolutely crazy. So, still in Tennessee.
Okay, hopefully for not much longer.
I can tell by the nicely painted walls.
Yes, yes.
And the echo, there's no furniture there.
I'm sitting on a folding chair and I have a milk crate and that's it.
Okay. So back to Isaiah. Isaiah is still predicting doom and gloom. I had 3 different versions of this, and so I compared, and I didn't do this all the way through, or I'd still be working on it. But verse 21 in our book reads this way: "But the trustworthy town has become an immoral woman." My Oxford, Catherine's got the same Bible, says, "How the faithful city has become a whore!" Exclamation point.
I love Old Testament writing.
And then I've got an Old Testament that has been recently translated by a Jewish scholar and says, "How has the faithful town become a whore?" Question mark. So you've got an exclamatory sentence, a question, and then just a regular sentence.
And I loved in our book where it says "arm."
Yeah.
And I thought of Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Sure, but there's mouth all the way open. They always do that a lot in the Charlie Brown. That's
Yeah.
cute.
So just 3 different examples, kind of the butt dial booty call comparison from a couple of weeks ago. Were you here for that?
No, but that just made me laugh. I'm sorry.
There's a meme on Facebook. There's a meme on Facebook that says 2,000 years from now, they will not understand the difference between butt dial and booty call.
I
And,
saw that one.
and that's why the Bible is so hard to understand.
Clergy Network is really good at getting those memes out. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that one several times and just, it stuck. Okay,
Facebook.
So,
Don't worry about it.
if I could get somebody to read,
Oh, do I get to read that before?
yeah. Verses 21 through 26. Go,
All right,
Catherine.
thank you. How the faithful city has become a whore. She that was full of justice, righteousness lodged in her, but now murderers. Your silver has become dross. Your wine is mixed with water. Your princes are rebels and companions of thieves. Everyone loves a bribe and runs after gifts. They do not defend the orphan, and the widow's cause does not come before them. Therefore, says the sovereign, the Lord of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, I will pour out my wrath on my enemies and avenge myself of my foes. I will turn my hand against you, and I will smelt away your dross as with lye, and remove all your alloy. And I will restore your judges as at first, and your counselors as at the beginning. Afterward, you shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Slash and burn and put it back the way it was.
Right, that's pretty much what the whole passage.
Jerusalem or DC?
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
it seems like present day discussion to me.
Yeah, I have somewhere I wrote a question that said, why do we keep doing this over and over again? So obviously they're talking about Jerusalem,
Because we're
although
slow. Because we're slow.
very, very slow, to the point of stupidity, apparently. So
Well, it's like they use that saying, you can't fix stupid.
I'm sorry, what happened yesterday that I missed in the world?
Israel's at war.
I knew that part. I knew that part about Israel. I don't know, everybody keeps talking about the US government today, and I'm just like, okay, other than like the House of Representatives.
We don't have any.
Oh, did we not? We don't have any government?
No, that was it.
I thought we had a budget
They did a
at
CR.
least, right? They did decide on a budget.
Wow, we sure regress.
Yeah,
I-
I'm just
Yeah.
confused.
So the prophet foresees a future in which Jerusalem will be restored, and it will receive a new name and designation. And the righteousness recalls, Melchizedek,
Melchizedek.
yeah, and Zadok. Do you remember? what can you
Which
tell
one
us
are we
about
talking
Zadok?
about?
Zadok, Zadok,
Where is he?
1 Kings 2:35.
Oh, well, I found I've got like the whole calendar back here. I was so excited when I found that last week, and then I was told it was cheating. Hold on a second. It tells us like everything in order of where, hold on a second, gotta find the right page. It's in yours too, I guess.
I didn't bring mine because they had other
Oh,
stuff.
hey, yeah, chronological table of brewers.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that beautiful? I love that.
Yeah.
So Zadok, ZZ, I see Zechariah, begins with a Z?
Zadok, a descendant of Aaron and a priest in Jerusalem under David and Solomon, a guardian of the ark during Absalom's rebellion. He became the sole high priest, and the office remained in his family until the 2nd century BC.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, this doesn't tell me anything about like
The high priest, you just got.
the high priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point here is that when Jerusalem, after God, destroys it and builds it back up, it will go back to that level of faithfulness, of righteousness.
So it's like smelting iron. You're gonna go through all of this. I'm gonna put you through hell to smelt out all of your impurities.
Yeah. And the word dross and slag, depending on which translation you've got, means impurities that come out of smelting process. And the same thing, the same idea of watering down the wine. Yeah. Slag.
Slag is the stuff that comes to the top when you've melted it down. and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So scrape that off.
yeah, and toss it.
Yeah.
Um,
Now in verse 23. Your officers are rebels, the associates of thieves. Every one of them loves a bribe, chases gifts. And one translation I looked at said illicit payments.
I don't know, this sounds like the whole Middle
Mine
East
says
to me.
itches for a gift.
It's just for gifts,
It loves a bribe and itches
Yeah.
for a gift.
but illicit payments to me makes it. It puts a more
Well, you're-
sinister.
Well, sell your soul for the almighty dollar.
Right.
And you're an accountant, so that's.
Yeah,
illicit payment sounds better.
yeah, it's, professional thing.
Kind of like the guy sitting in the lightning.
Okay, let's stay out of DC here.
Sorry.
Now you're just going too low.
Okay, the usual, so anyway,
DC
in
is-
this.
It's played the whore.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Always.
one translation I looked at, instead of saying your rebels are. Where was that? Your officers are rebels, it says your nobles are knaves. And this translator says the alliteration in the translation seeks to be an approximate of the fuller sound play of the Hebrew. And two words I can't say, I'm not gonna butcher them.
Mm.
Because Hebrew, what I learned reading something this summer, said that the sound of the word and the meaning of the word are intertwined. And
Instead of
so
like
there's a lot of wordplay, sound play that we miss when we translate it into English. And so to say your nobles or knaves, he's trying to pick up on that wordplay. The point of the sound play is that something turns into its opposite in a move from one word to the antithesis that sounds like the first one. So nobles and knaves.
Sort of like what David was trying to do at the beginning of his series when he was like showing us.
Adam and
Yeah,
earth and,
Adama, and then he was trying to talk about earth and earthlings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that was the same translation is the one that talks about it, illicit payments, and he said technically it means illegitimate payments. Payoff in English might be an equivalent, but it's a little too colloquial. This is a formal poem, so he skipped the payoff.
Yeah.
Bribes was very to the point.
I find it kind of interesting, you know, when you're yelling at somebody and you're saying you're doing this and this is wrong, and each thing you're saying is worse than the last thing you said. So your culmination statement is the very worst thing that person is. And I love this. This is the culmination. They never defend orphans in court or listen when widows present their cases.
Well, I
Then he
think-
goes into repairing Jerusalem. I think that's weird that he ends with that.
Yeah, I mean, he starts with horse. So,
I know,
you know,
He
he can't get
starts with
worse.
the worst and then goes easy.
Yeah,
That's one of the most important
yeah,
Jewish laws
Yeah.
around,
yeah.
is you show kindness to stranger,
Yeah.
you take care of the orphans and the widows.
Yeah.
That was a capstone statement on that.
Yeah,
whole
and so
passage.
in their
So that-
mind,
That was
Yeah,
the worst.
that was-
worst of
Right.
all is you've broken the Jewish law.
Yeah. I guess there's horse everywhere, so, you know. Yeah.
But, I remember, how many of you remember, Russ and Molly Johnson? Yeah,
Mm.
you know, he used to joke that he worked for the IRS, so he went after the orphans and the widows.
No, I think it's funny. It's like this whole section, I mean, Isaiah's yelling at them, basically telling them they're doing exactly what God said that they were going to do when they asked for a king in the first place. And it's like, you remember back to when they asked for a king in the first place, God said, you don't want a king. Kings are gonna do this, you're gonna do this, they're gonna do this, it's gonna all be corrupt. And, you know, and all of society, they're gonna take all of your money and they're gonna, but I mean, he set it up and said, you know, this is what's gonna happen, and you lose the judges, you're losing me.
Yeah.
And
You're
that's
losing
exactly,
that voice
yeah,
to show you the way. So, yeah, kind of, I told you so.
yeah, oh, yeah, no, Isaiah's great at I told you so.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments about those few persons? Okay, could I get somebody to read 27 through 31?
I can do it.
Okay,
Zion shall be redeemed by justice, and those in her who repent by righteousness. But rebels and sinners shall be destroyed together, and those who forsake the Lord shall be consumed. For you shall be ashamed of the oaks in which you delight, and you shall blush for the gardens which you have chosen. For you shall be like an oak whose leaf withers, and like a garden without water, and the strong shall become tow, and his work a spark.
okay.
I've still got another verse and a half after that,
Oh,
or half
and
a
both
verse.
of them, next page, both of them shall burn together with none to quench them.
Okay. This final stanza is taken by many to be a later apocalyptic addition to the poem. Justice here has more the sense of judgment and righteousness of ultimate vindication. The criterion according to which people are judged is addiction to illicit worship. And that's what the garden is talking about. The pagans frequently worshiped in gardens, and there was a tree cult. And so that's what this is alluding to. The nation is now divided between those who repent and turn away from evil and the rebels and the sinners. And so the end is judgment represented under the image of fire.
So does that, so the Jewish people were starting to go pagan? Is that
some of them were.
like they
worshiping
did,
the
like they
pagans, yeah.
did when Moses was up on top of the mountain?
Yeah, yeah, they're surrounded by them and it looks good, it's tempting, it's easy.
But that's a constant theme with the Jewish people.
Right.
They're always, it's like, it's always that's what's happening. It's like they gravitate toward the Baals and then they get pulled back.
Yeah.
Or they gravitate towards the Baals and some get pulled back and the other ones just get cut off.
Yeah.
So,
It is over and over and
yeah,
over.
yeah. It's hard to stay true to God. You can't see God. A lot of people don't make that connection, and it's like it's hard to stay true to something that's that's they don't have a visual, and they have to actually have faith in this thing that they're not allowed to make visuals about, and
Yeah.
all of these other things. I mean, it's just
Yeah, I'm reading that and kind of laughing to myself because sitting in my yard, watching the garden and watching the trees makes me feel the presence of God.
Yes, I had the same reaction to
Well,
that.
I mean, this is post the Syrian, conquering of the northern kingdom. And that's why is not why the Sumerians were so hated, because they were influenced by the paganism of the Assyrians in, the early conquering of the northern kingdom. So he's probably got, there's probably a lot of that going on. And that's, again, why the Sumerians were so hated much, 500 years later, even though Samaria was the original capital of the northern kingdom. So, I think there was a lot of paganism, a lot of people intermarried and all kinds of stuff.
But this also reminds me that when I'm going through a hard time, feeling down, feeling like, when was the last time something good happened?
Your clothes gone.
Yeah, it's very hard to, I cry out, Lord, where are you? I need you, and I feel apart from you. And
why have you let this happen to me?
yeah, and it's hard to fall back and, tell myself through faith, you are there, you are there, you are there, and then recount for myself the countless things he's done for me. But it is hard, so and I don't have a group of people around me that I live with daily that are trying to show me an easier way.
Yeah.
Like most of my friends are Christian friends who will, if I talk to them, they'll say, let's pray about it, let's do this, So I don't know. I kind of have a soft spot in my heart sometimes for the Israelites who go through, yes, they bring it on themselves, but it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe in something.
Well,
you cannot see.
and it's hard to believe when bad things and good things happen to everybody.
Yeah.
Regardless of how bad or good you are. And so it's hard for people who feel that I'm good, better things should happen to me than they should happen to them. And it doesn't work that way. It's that just having that faith in God, that things will go the way that things will go. And that you have the strength to live through it, because
We come here for the hardships.
yeah,
What did you ever learn in calm seas? If we didn't come here for the if we weren't coming here, if we weren't calm seas, we would never come here.
Smooth seas does not a good sailor make.
Right. You never learn anything when everything is perfect. If we were looking for perfection, we would never come to this dimension. We come here for the hardships.
I do feel like that's like a modern aspect of religion though, because I don't think historically the whole idea that good things happen to me because I have faith is biblical. I mean, that's not biblical. And that's,
No, it's
That's
just
not-
human, it's
Good,
just.
good quote, good things is a perception.
Yeah, that's,
Right.
there's a distinction is that what is,
What's good and what's
what is
bad.
of worth, what is a good thing,
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily getting a piece of pie or getting gold something or
The
getting
golden sneaker.
something, yeah.
Yeah, we all have
It's, it's the fact,
Definitions.
we all, it's like when I've talked about this, my song, There Is a Hill. I'm saying, you know, having faith doesn't mean you're not going to have problems and troubles. They're going to be just as strong and just as bad as they are for other people, for the most part, except for the parts you make yourself, you know, but and increase, but the difference is the reward that you have is an ability to see what this life is and what God is, and to see that that is the center of it, and it's not all these difficulties and these things are coming around you. You have a way to place yourself there with a peace, inner peace, even when there's outer struggle. And it is hard. It's hard, but that's the reward. You know,
Well, Henry David Thoreau, one of my favorite
man, too.
authors, wrote that we all experience impassioned recollection, which is that when we get through an experience and we look back on it, we're able to see the significance of that experience, not necessarily while we're going through it, but when we look back on, as my grandmother used to say, the tapestry of our lives, we can see where this part was being woven to complete who we are and the picture of who we are. And
And you
We
talk
don't
about
always-
that a lot with your, looking back on your,
Yeah, Yeah, I was-
career and.
little Miss Goody Two Shoes as a kid. And then ended up married to a gay man, who was the only person who'd ever shown any interest in me. And I'm looking at God going, what have you done to me? What's wrong with me? Yeah, that was rough. But I grew a backbone. I didn't push back. And people who know me now are going, no. But that's where I grew my backbone.
I was very shocked, really.
Right, yeah.
And it was having to deal with my father's alcoholism and learn to stand up for myself and not be a victim anymore in his drunken rages.
Yeah.
If that hadn't happened, I probably would have never learned how to be an advocate for myself and therefore
Same here.
become an advocate for others and teaching them how to be an advocate.
Yeah.
So, but you don't realize it when you're going through it.
No, it's
You
like,
look at it like, oh.
yeah, what if, somebody. Harold Heron and I went to high school together. And she ran into somebody else that was in our school who remembered that at our 10-year reunion, I must have made a huge impression. She said, I was very angry, and that was shortly after my divorce. And I thought, yeah, I was angry because I had done everything the way I was supposed to, like a good little girl, and that's what I'd gotten. So, yeah, I was still mad at that one.
And the difference, like you said, is learning. You can't carry around resentment for things that happen. It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't go anywhere, and you can't carry around anger or resentment. You have to,
Yeah.
you have to just look and learn and not carry that, carry what you've given.
Look at it from the point of view that it happened for you, not to you.
Right, and I can see that now, but this is 47 years later. And it didn't take me 47 years, but it did take a while.
Obviously,
Give it a little bit more.
obvious mistake in Israel.
It was just.
Time after time after time to realize that they just can't keep going the way they're going.
Well, and it'll continue, and
Yeah.
it'll continue, and it'll continue.
And how much of it is
Yeah.
everybody has to learn for themselves, and so each generation has to learn for, those baby boomers, they didn't know what they were doing, we'll do better, and they just do the same thing all over again. So, Because let's face it, we tend not to learn from our ancestors' mistakes or advice.
How do you get over the impulse?
Yeah,
This
when
is
I- when I-
myself.
when you take
How
this
do you
thing,
get over the impulse of your wisdom from experience and reading and whatever? To not fix somebody else,
Do not let.
fix somebody else.
Oh.
Because I just know what they should be doing.
Sometimes you just have to be with them and listen.
Right.
If you have an experience, I mean, share that experience, and it's like, I was going through something similar, and this is, how I handled it. It may or may not work for you. Trying to get them, or trying to convince them of a specific outcome is always gonna be a failure, because they're gonna say, no, I have to do this on my own. And I know that because that's what I do. I always want
Sometimes
to do
our
this on
fixes
my own.
don't work for other people.
That's true also.
Well, I think my perception is that I've gotten wisdom
Yeah.
and whatever from that experience. Why have you?
It's like it's like when you were a teenager and your parents gave you the wisdom
And
of
they
their
were right.
advice. And, but you're not often ready.
You're not in that mind space yet.
Yeah.
But you can open the door to that mind space for them. And that's sort of like where I'm going with that is if you share your background and your experience, and not with the judgment or the expectation that they're going to do the exact same thing or get the exact same thing out of it.
Same Bertie?
But if we share that, and say, well, and it's like, and that's a gift that you're giving to them. And either they accept the gift, or they can't accept the gift, and maybe they put it in their mind and they come back to it later.
And sometimes your role is to just listen.
Yeah.
And then,
And be an example.
And be
yeah, and take that home and pray, I often think as you think, if I could just be in charge for 10 minutes, there's some things I could really fix. And then everything would run so much smoother. And I don't understand why people can't see that. But I've come to realize that the only person I can fix is me. And I've told friends, don't ask my advice unless you want it. So I'm not gonna offer it unless you ask, but don't ask unless you want it. And sometimes all I want is for someone to listen and let me bounce ideas. I don't want them to fix it.
It greatly increased
And let them
marriage.
know that you love them.
When you finally figure it out.
20 years, at
And he just-
45th anniversary.
45th anniversary.
20 years in, he said, when I come home from work and this stuff, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I want you just to listen.
Yeah.
And it made all the difference in the world. And I talked to a man in the government that I was working with. We were up in Minnesota driving down a snowy road, and he said, if I had that advice early, I would still be married.
What's that they got to say?
Okay, moving.
One of the things we easily forget is everybody comes to the same situation with their own background experiences. And so, I think this is right, I base it all on my life, but I don't know what your background experience is, and that's what's informing you about making these decisions or having a certain perspective, so. If I believe the earth is flat based on all my life experience,
You mean it's not?
it's gonna be hard for you to convince me that it's not.
I just said, that's nice.
Well, it is flat.
Okay,
I go
you
on,
go with that.
I go on to a challenge that I think I can fix. I don't worry about those kinds of things.
But
I mean,
I would just ask them to take me to the edge.
There you go.
but, you mentioned coming from an experience of an alcoholic father and so forth. Well, I guess I was gonna say, I don't have that experience. I do have alcoholism in my family, but some people don't. And so it's hard to understand some of the real difficult things that bring you to where you are.
Okay, going on into chapter 2. And I'll read, this is the first 5 verses. The word that Isaiah ben Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. It will come about at the end of time. The mountain of Yahweh's house will have become established at the peak of the mountains, and it will be higher than the hills. All the nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come and say, "Come on, let's go up to Yahweh's mountain, to the house of Jacob's God, so he may teach us of his ways, and we may walk in his paths." Because teaching will go out from Zion, Yahweh's word from Jerusalem. He will exercise authority among the nations and issue reproof for many peoples. They will beat their swords into hoes and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation. They will no more burn war. Jacob's household, come on, let's walk by Yahweh's light. And y'all let me do that, it's the whole world. No, okay.
Oh, no, actually.
No, it was the right thing.
Okay. So I thought it was kind of the author in our book, his discussion here of something that happened in his town where somebody got convicted of second-degree manslaughter. And he never came in contact with victims. Did y'all read this story, or do I need to tell you? I'll just read it real quick because it's just one paragraph. The other Sunday, halfway on our 5-minute drive to church, there was a huge police presence off to the left of our street, with police cars and barriers and police officers apparently searching wasteland and dumpsters. Some aspects of what happened are still disputed, but the story is approximately as follows. About midnight, 2 teenagers had broken into a car and stolen a backpack with a laptop, and a man had called the police. To encourage a quick response, he told them that the youths were armed. The police came, chased the youths, and shot and killed one when they thought he was reaching for the gun that he did not, in fact, have. The man who called the police has been charged with second-degree manslaughter. Then he goes on to say you can be guilty in regard to someone's death, whether or not you personally killed them. So if you can take care of that widow or the orphan and you choose not to, you could be just as guilty as someone who steals food from them. So, it's
Inaction is as bad as.
yes. In fact, in my days of little Miss Goody Two Shoes, I used to read the 10 Commandments and say, I've got this locked up. I'm not doing any of these things. And then as an adult, I realized it was what I wasn't doing was much more important than the fact that I, did the right things. I wasn't doing a lot of things I could.
See, I took the baseball mentality. I figured if I got 3 out of 10, I'm batting 300. That was good.
But, trying to, and even now, trying to do things I know I should is a lot harder than not doing things I know I shouldn't.
Especially if it's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been arguing with Attorney General's office, not arguing, but discussing a point that I think would bring more equity and fairness in a certain situation, but it's difficult. It's a very difficult argument to connect, and we've been working and talking about it, and everybody recognizes that it's probably a good thing to do, but it's got some, inborn resistance just in structural people's minds. And so it's hard to do, but I told the guy that we're working on this with, I said, sometimes doing the right thing is really hard. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do it. Do you think that's where it should be?
I think we get overwhelmed by what we see out there and that we feel like we want to fix it. How can we fix all of this? And it's very difficult. It's like the starfish on the sand. All of these starfish and the little boy throws one back, and the difference it makes. And I think that that's what each of our lives is like. You see someone, you know, that needs help and you offer some help. You know, it's when you see someone that needs help and you don't offer it, it's like your mind says, I really should do something, but you don't do it. You know, and I think those are the times it's hard. You know, when you feel like you should be doing something, but you don't know what to do.
Yeah, but it's harder when you take on the challenge and it's rejected. And then it's like,
But all you can do is offer. Right.
You know,
The
the dog,
cornerstone, the
the dog
cornerstone.
that just lost, we bought that highway. We had been there and it was in miserable conditions and it was starving for affection and it's an old dog. But we still got it driven across the country here. So for 2 years, that dog had comfort and companionship. And, you know, you can't do everything, but sometimes something, at least you know this was right. This was okay. This brought some relief in this world to something. You know?
And it brings more peace to me, you know, to you, you know, than you can imagine. You know, to be able to do something.
Any other last minute comments? I'm not used to y'all being this way.
Haven't been.
It's a
just
big
the last
world,
minute,
and there are a lot of problems, and so what I'm hearing is a lot of self-guilt for not fixing everything. And I have this vision, I don't know, I think it comes from some movie or whatever, but I see this monk with a cat of 9 tails and things on it, beating himself, you know, and I think that's one of my early rejections of Christianity and religion was this, you know, man is in the hands of an angry God suspended over us, fire by a single thread and all that crap, you know.
That's what it
So,
is, crap.
you know, I look at peace, you know, when I go out in my garden and I see my little Buddha who reflects Christ to me, and he has a bowl, and that bowl is full of some little lump. And sometimes I just give thanks for what's in that bowl, but sometimes that bowl has problems in it too. And I'm rambling here a bit, but I just don't want to sit here and feel like I have to beat myself for not feeding every person that I see at the street corner and going down the street. You know, there are other issues there, and I have to admit, I'm very judgmental about that. You know, is it safe? Am I feeding a habit? Am I helping somebody? Am I doing whatever? I have to wrestle with that monster myself. So I don't think we should feel guilty for not fixing everybody.
No, that's the prophet's job. The prophet's job is simply not to fix everybody, but to tell everybody what they're doing wrong. So that's what Isaiah is doing. Isaiah's job is to tell everybody what he sees and to proclaim all of the nasty, unpleasant messages that nobody wants to hear, because the prophet's never accepted in their own town, and that's perfectly understood with the Jewish people, and Jesus got that too. But we have to work on ourselves, and our faith is an individual personal thing. We're not responsible for fixing everyone else. We're responsible to try to improve ourselves as much as possible and try to be there for others when they need us.
Yeah, I don't take very many minutes to look retrospectively of things. I really don't, because I follow thinking that, well, it takes time to do that, and that's time I could be doing something else, the next thing on the list. So I don't do much introspective, retrospective viewing, and that's why sometimes I make mistakes. And but that's just me. Everybody's a little different.
And that's what makes it interesting.
Well, the thing is, you don't know what an individual has written into their chart before their incarnation. Okay, so you don't know what they planned and what they charted out in their blueprint for the particular life that they're experiencing. So here again, I take it back to it's all perception. I mean, you're looking at something else, or take for instance, a crippled person or whatever, you know, it's, oh, that poor person, they're just so terrible, how can we fix them? Well, guess what, they don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
They planned that. They came in for a purpose to experience that. I don't mean to be calloused or anything about it, but it's the truth of the matter. It's all perception.
It's
Okay, we're
for
gonna
truth.
stop here
Yeah.
because we're running out of time.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you need to check the light.
Yes.
We need to get into church. Thank you all for participating.